Hello everybody, Swingpin back with what I guess is another Bed Wars video, but honestly is a new kind of video that I've been wanting to try out for a while. So the next few videos going to be talking about some memories from my past, some stories I'd like to tell, emotions, feelings, things like that. Some will be positive, some will be happy, some won't be so positive or might be a little sad, deep, whatever you want to call it, but I'm going to try this out, see how I like it, just some things I want to talk about. So the first thing today, the first one I'm going to talk about is a book, or a series of books more specifically, that really changed my life and shaped who I am today. And I would say confidently, I would not be the same person if I had never picked up this book series as I am now. So that book or book series is the Harry Potter book series, which I started reading when I was in 3rd grade. So I read a little bit before 3rd grade, but I had a teacher, Miss Christianer, who made a reading competition. And essentially how it worked was you would read a book and then take a quiz on it afterwards just to prove that you had read it, and then you would get points from that. And the bigger or more difficult a book was, the more points you would get. And then at the end of the week, if you had a certain amount of points, she would give you a candy bar. Now, I am a big-time sweet tooth and also a really competitive person. So if you want to incentivize me with competition and candy bars, that is a good way to get me to do something. So I immediately started reading every book I could get my hands on, taking those quizzes, and trying to win the competition. And after a couple months, I realized that the small chapter books I was reading, they weren't giving me a lot of points. So I decided to take what for a 3rd grader was a much bigger task, which was the first Harry Potter book, Sorcerer's Stone. And so I read that book, I picked it up, and for me at the time, I had never read anything so big. So now looking at it as an adult, I realize it's only about 300 pages, the font's relatively big, it's a pretty easy read, but for a 9-year-old or 8-year-old, that was a pretty big task. So I picked that up on a Friday. I read the first chapter at school during our reading period, and it was honestly a fairly big challenge for me. I struggled through it at first, but I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the challenge of it as well. And after the first chapter, I could tell I was really going to like this, and I had scheduled to spend the weekend with my grandparents. So I was going to their house, and as soon as I got there that Friday night, I ran into their spare bedroom and started trying to read the 2nd and 3rd chapter because I knew I had found something I enjoyed and wanted to keep doing it, and also knew it was going to take a lot of work to get through this book for my current reading level when I was in 3rd grade. So I ran into their room. I spent probably an hour and a half, 2 hours just reading those 2 chapters. And I didn't know at the time how big of an impact the book was going to have on me. There's no way I would know that at 9 years old, but I could tell I had found something that really resonated with me and something I really enjoyed, and that was going to be a lot of fun, at least for the next few months as I read the books. So going from there, it took me about a week or 2 weeks. I can't remember specifically how long it took for me to read that first book, but I do remember as soon as I finished it, I was so proud of myself, and I immediately wanted to go to the library to get the second one. So my mom took me to the library. I took out the second one and started reading it. I had gotten a little faster at reading it. I'd gotten used to the smaller print and the longer chapters, so I was a little better. And so I just kept reading those books. At the time, only 5, I think, books were out. So I asked my mom, hey, can you pre-order the 6th book for me so that once I get through the first 5 from the library, I'll have that 6th one already? And luckily, she was willing to do that. So she ordered that for me. And so by the time I finished the 5th book, the 6th one had come, and I started reading that. And I never really stopped reading Harry Potter. Even once I finished my first run of the series, I just restarted it. And that went on for probably 5 years, where I was on and off, but more on than off, reading the books. So I ended up reading the whole series 7 times. I read some of them a little bit more than that. And for a person like me at that time, I was shy, might not be the right word, but I was definitely more of a loner. I didn't like to be in big crowds. I kind of felt like I didn't fit in really well. I wasn't super popular at school. I had a couple friends, but I definitely didn't feel at home when there was a lot of people around. And a book like that world that I was able to escape to was so meaningful. I kind of felt like myself when I was reading it. I felt understood, and I felt like there was a world where the person I was made sense and fit in. And the other thing is, it introduced me to like grinding something. So like I said, the books were a little bit difficult for me to read at first. And so it was like this challenge, this big challenge that seemed like really huge that I would never be able to finish. And I just forced myself to do it, even though I really enjoyed it. But it was like a grind. And it was the first thing that I became obsessed with. And now obsession over passions is like a huge thing for me. It's kind of a cornerstone of my life with Minecraft and YouTube. I go full on into everything. And that really started with Harry Potter. I'm really grateful for that, for the way I felt accepted and the way I felt at home, and also for its introduction to grinding things and becoming passionate about things. So long story short, I owe a lot to that book series, and I would really encourage you to, if you haven't already, pick them up. Don't take them too seriously, but just allow the world to take over for you and, you know, enjoy it. But that's all I really have to say about that. I'll see you guys next time.